So good.
每次这个东西都会被吃光。
Nice.
Welcome back. Last week, my parents and I went to a dimsum restaurant and we had a delicious dessert. It was the 1,000-layer cake. Today, we're going to put our own spin on it by using a salted duck egg yolk mixed with mung bean in the middle layers. It is so fluffy, so delicious, savory, and sweet. Honestly, it's great to bring to any parties now that everything's opening back up again. So first thing is, I will walk you through all the ingredients. What you'll need is some all-purpose flour, wheat starch, some water, baking powder, yeast, and sugar. All the amount and the ingredient is in the description box below. We're going to start with making the dough. First thing we're going to do is to activate the yeast. These are just regular yeast, and my mom likes to do it this way just to be extra sure that the yeast is working. So we're going to combine together the yeast with some white sugar, which will help it activate. And then to it, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of water. What you're looking for is for the yeast to start foaming in about 5 to 10 minutes. The next step is we're going to combine together the 2 kinds of flours. So all-purpose flour tends to have too much gluten still for this style of cake, which we want really fluffy. So to combat that, you will add half the amount in wheat starch, which is this package right here. We will also add some baking powder. This will also help it achieve that really light, fluffy texture. So just to combine everything into a large bowl, you're going to give it a mix so that everything is fully incorporated. Once this is done, we're going to warm up our water. We want it to be under 50 degrees so it doesn't kill the yeast. The easiest way is just to pop it in the microwave for 30 seconds, but it needs to be warm enough that it helps it rise faster. All right, when you see the yeast all foamy and kind of like a gel texture, it is ready to be used. Now we're going to combine everything together into the flour, just into the center. And then in the exact same spot, we're going to start adding in the warm water. And this is the same method that my mom has talked about before. You take a chopstick and you add very little water at a time. And you start moving the chopstick until you kind of get these like clumps of flour. And once you feel like no more water is left, you add a little bit more. Depending on the type of flour you're using, you might need different amount of water. So the water amount we put in the description box is just for reference. That's the maximum amount you will use. It is likely that I won't finish all of this. For this pastry specifically, it is really crucial that you don't add too much water. Otherwise, it won't rise and give you that nice layered texture. Keep adding in the water until you don't have any more dried flour left. And then that's when you can start using your hand to help the process. Nothing too heavy, you're just helping it come together. And you can add more water as needed. You want to make sure that it doesn't get too sticky at all. Once it starts feeling wet to the hand and it starts sticking to your finger a little bit, you want to stop adding water and just kind of keep helping it come together. Okay.
对呀，
不用揉太久哈。Now we're going to cover it to prevent it from drying out and then put it into your oven for proofing. Our proof setting is right here, bread proof. We're going to let this proof for about half an hour to 40 minutes, and while we're waiting, we're going to make the filling. This filling is going to be a mix of split mung bean and salted egg yolk, so we start with cooking the split mung beans. You can see that it has no shell and that it is dry and that it's been split open. We're going to cook this like you would with most grains. We are going to add half a cup of split mung beans and 1 cup of water. And then you're going to turn the heat up to high. Now we're going to let it come up to a boil before turning it down and letting it simmer with the lid on for about 20-ish minutes. You can find these at any bulk food stores, like a bulk barn. We got this at the Korean store. I believe they also sell it in Indian stores. But yeah, super easy to find and it's really, really healthy. All right, now time for the special ingredient of this recipe. This was my all-time favorite thing to eat with congee as a kid. This is salted egg, and it looks like this. I know it's really strange, but trust me, you gotta try it at least once in your life. Let me show you what it looks like. So it looks like a normal carton of egg, but if you open it, you'll see that they've all been wrapped, and that's because they've been salted or cured. And what you get are these hard-boiled looking eggs, but they are very, very salty. I don't like the egg whites as much, but the egg yolk is delicious in Asian desserts, and that's what we're going to use today. This is now boiling. We are going to cover with the lid and turn it down to the lowest. And we're going to steam this like you would with rice for about 20 minutes. You want to be careful not to get too much of the egg whites in, otherwise you won't have the best creamy texture. There is a film around the egg yolk. You don't want to get that in the filling as well. It would also affect the texture. And don't worry, you don't need to throw away the egg white. We like to stir fry veggies with it. It kind of adds a nice saltiness. You know this is high quality duck yolk when you can see the oil oozing out. That's just a natural fat of the duck. Yeah, this, I remember it used to be my favorite side dish to eating congee. I would just have rice and just this, and it would be such a decadent, comforting meal. Actually, my mom has a recipe for this on how she cures her own egg at home. You can use chicken egg or even quail egg. Super fun and honestly really easy. You just pretty much set it up and then you wait for about 2-3 weeks. So if you like, we can definitely show you how we do that in a future episode. Let us know. Okay, it's been about half an hour. So we simmered it for 20 minutes and then we turned off the heat and let it kind of just steam for another 10 minutes. So let's check it out. If you cook it by this method, you can see that all the grains are separated. The key is to make sure that you can mush it like into a paste like this. We're going to combine the salted egg yolk with the mung bean. We're going to add sugar. My mom's recipe has about half a cup. I'm going to add 1/4 cup because I don't like it when it's too sweet. This is homemade lard, which is just made from pork belly. So this adds a richness that's very unique. You can find these in No Frills and I think maybe even Whole Foods. If you really don't have it, you can also use a butter as a substitute or even coconut oil. I feel like that might work too. Do this as quickly as you can. You use the remaining heat to make sure everything is melted. And the fat will give that distinct layering. Now we're going to do a taste test to see that if it's sweet enough. I actually like it like this. Not too sweet at all. If you want, feel free to add some condensed milk or, you know, more sugar. All right, it's been about an hour actually. So now we have 3 indications to see when it's ready. Number 1 is you can poke a hole through. Number 2 is that the overall volume has doubled in size. And number 3 is if you pull it up like this, you'll see honeycomb-like structure. And that's how you know it's ready. We're going to take this out, season the board with some flour, just so that it doesn't stick. If you have a smaller or bigger board, you can just try to adjust the size. What we're gonna first do before we roll it out is to take out all of the bubbles, and you do that by kneading until it's absolutely smooth. You want to pull in and push down, pull in and push down, pull in and push down. Pull in from the bottom, push down with your palm. Rotate, pull in from the bottom, push down with your palm. And you keep doing this until your dough is completely smooth and all the air bubble has been expelled. Okay. Now this is perfectly smooth. We're going to roll it out. I kneaded it for about, I want to say 10 minutes. So just make sure that when you let it prove that it is super, super puffy. So I'm trying to aim for about the length of or the width of the board. 这边有点薄。
是啊，所以你刚才拿手，我就跟你讲，手一定不能拖。
Instead of rolling it into a rectangle this time, we're going to roll it into a circle. So this way, and then rotate. Once you get to about this size, we're going to flip it one last time. And now the center is likely thicker than the outside, so we're going to start rolling out from the center to fill out the edge of this board. And we won't flip it anymore, otherwise it will tear. And if at any point you feel like your dough is sticking to the board too much, you just want to open it up a little bit, put a little bit of flour, dust it all over, and then cover it, and then repeat on any other sides that needs it. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the 4 corners and I'm really just going from the middle and then pushing it up. Now we are ready. We're going to put in our filling. We are going to make a slit right down the middle like this. We're going to roughly use 3 portions of the same size and 1 smaller portion. Now we're going to smear this on evenly on one of the quadrants at the bottom first. One important thing is that this is completely cooled. If your filling is hot, it will kill the dough and then it won't be able to rise anymore. So don't worry about hitting the edge. That's the part we're going to cut off when you're done. So just get it as close to as possible. And then we're going to spread it at the bottom quadrant and the top quadrant. And then I'm going to show you how you can overlap it later on. Okay, make sure that you hit the edge of this. And then we're just going to smooth it out. Make sure that every corner is covered. We're going to start at the bottom right quadrant and then we're going to overlap them in a counterclockwise direction. And then very gently stick your hand under. And then slowly. Now we folded it, we're going to cut this in half. Take this, put it on the side so we can roll this one out slightly. We're going to take half of what's left over of the filling and smear on this layer. Now we're ready to flip it over one more time. Going to gently press it down. Right. Now we're going to repeat the process with the next one. We're going to let this proof for another 40 minutes. The steamer we're using is large for this ratio of ingredients. We're going to proof it in the oven under the bread proofing section and then set a timer for 40 minutes. We're going to check on this. Depending on the temperature of your place and also the softness of your dough, you might need to wait a little bit longer. You can see that it got a lot fluffier, and within each layer, the dough itself has more bubble now. So it's much softer. Once you get that level of softness, we're going to put it on a pot of cold water, and then we're going to turn the heat up to medium-high. And we have to wait right here because as soon as steam starts escaping, that's when we have to turn it down to about a medium. This is crucial because if the heat is too high, then the dough will not cook properly and you're gonna get very bumpy surface on the top. So for really smooth, flat surface, gotta make sure we turn it down at the right time. Once you start seeing the smoke coming up like this, you are going to turn down the heat slightly so that the steam is still coming out but not so aggressively. So for us, it's about a 4. So you want to keep it a little bit higher than medium and make sure that there's still steam coming out from the side. And now we're going to count for about 8 minutes. Now it's been 8 minutes, we're going to turn it off and we're going to let it sit here for about another 5 minutes. Okay, if you take a look at this, it's so beautiful and fluffy. Now we're going to flip this over. To retain the shape, you're going to go poof. And I'm just gonna remove all of that. You don't want to keep this in the steamer for too long because the moisture is going to make it soggy. And now the best part is to cut off the edges so that it stays uniformed. And if you have kids at home, this would be a great treat for them, the edge piece. Try some. How is it? 不是很甜的。
不是很甜，很好吃，很好吃。哇，好吃吧
So good.
每次这个东西都会被吃光。
Nice.
Passarinho na janela e o fusquinha na calçada, bicicleta amarela e o calor de madrugada são lembranças de nós dois. Vai você, eu vou depois.